Good morning. Welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out, no matter what comes in a day. And this week we've been talking on acting on what we believe. And the underlying point is that we will act on what we really believe. Because if we don't really believe something, we might half-heartedly act on it, maybe not sure what's going on. But when we really believe something, it's going to spark that action, and that action can vary. So I want to look at one character today and a lot of actions. And the dude I'm talking about is Peter. I love Peter. Now, you know what? One of the things I love about Peter is that he has so many obvious flaws, right? He's not perfect. He cussed a little bit, right? He denied Jesus 3 times. I mean, he's got a long list of bad marks, right? Jesus didn't talk about him badly though. And Jesus didn't say, "Get away from me." You know, he said, you're not worth it. He did tell him you're going to mess up, but I have prayed for you so that when you come back, you can strengthen your brethren. So Jesus knew Peter was going to fail. He knew Peter was going to deny him 3 times before the morning, right? And he knew that, but he didn't say, "Oh, get out of my sight. Don't ever come back. You're going to deny me." No, he said, "You're going to be sifted like wheat. The enemy is going to really attack you, but I prayed for you." That's a powerful thing. Now, if we go back, and I don't want to get off track here, but if we go back to John 17, Jesus prayed for us too. He says in John 17, "I'm praying not just for these disciples sitting here, but everyone who will come to me through their testimony." And that includes us, part of Abraham's seed, all that. He prayed for us too, that we would be one, that we would know we were in him and he was in us. That's an amazing thing. We're going to act on what we really, really believe. Peter is a good example of it. And so I started with Matthew 14, where Peter walked on the water. That's where my thinking was when I was getting prepared for this morning and thinking about this morning. And this is kind of where my thinking has gone this week when I've been thinking on my own and meditating on acting on what we believe. I thought, Peter jumped out of that boat. When he believed it was Jesus, he jumped out of the boat. Now, he got distracted, and sometimes we major on the distraction and he sunk. But he took some steps on the water. How many have you taken? Me, 0. Absolutely 0. Ever. It's kind of like a marathon I thought about, because I only did 1 full marathon. I did about 30 half marathons. I loved the half marathon distance. But I did a marathon. It was ugly. It took me forever. I thought I was never going to run anything ever again. I did, but I wasn't sure, because I did not enjoy that marathon. It was pure drudgery. It was so hard. 26.1 miles, unimaginable. Why did I do it? I don't know. Temporary insanity, maybe. I don't know, but it was fun. And now I can say I did it. You can't take that away from me. The fact that I never did another one doesn't matter, because I did a marathon. I'm a marathoner. How cool is that, right? I'm not one now, but I did it. And Peter walked on the water, and you can't take that away. He did it. You can't just erase it and go, "Oh, well, then he fell. Don't major on the fall. Major on the fact that he jumped out of that boat when he saw Jesus and knew it was Jesus. He jumped out of that boat while 11 other disciples sat there on their hind ends. They just sat there and watched. They didn't try. They didn't say, "What are you doing?" They didn't say, "Oh, let's all jump in the water. Let's all go to Jesus." They just sat there, probably with their mouths open, going, "What just happened? What happened?" Right? But Peter literally walked on the water when he realized it was Jesus, and he realized it was Jesus saying, "Come on." Peter says, "Yeah, well, if that's you, tell me to come." And Jesus goes, "Come on." And Peter was, in that moment, he was like, it's him. And he didn't even think about the storm. He didn't think about where he was. He didn't think about the 11 other disciples. He didn't think about anything but getting to Jesus. And he jumped out of the boat and took a few steps before he looked away and got distracted by the storm. That's okay. We have more stuff on Peter, though. I love this tenacity, and I think he's a good example of acting on what he believed. Even in Acts chapter 2, he's the one that stood up and he actually became kind of a lead apostle through Acts with Paul. Paul doesn't come on until chapter 9 of Acts anyway, but in chapter 2, he stood up and said, this is what Joel was talking about. And he became just a huge influence in the book of Acts in tying that tying up those knots between the Old Testament, what's going on in the New Testament, and preaching that Jesus was the Messiah and things. He became the rock. The whole Catholic Church is built on Peter, right? And so he became, but in the process, he shows us that he acts on what he believes. In John 20, verse 3, it says, the first part of verse 20, we don't have to just read this on Easter. I'll just let you know. We don't have to read the Christmas story just on Christmas either. But while it was still dark, it says, Mary came to the tomb and found that the stone was rolled away, and she ran and found Peter. Why did she find Peter? Because he was probably the most accessible and the most outspoken, right? She found Peter and the other disciple, which was John, the one Jesus loved. She said, they've taken the Lord's body out of the tomb, and I don't know where they put him. Peter and the other disciple ran to the tomb to see. Peter acted on what she said. He ran, and it says John outran him, and they got there, and then when Simon got there, it says John outran him and ran there, but he didn't go in. And then Simon Peter arrived and went inside. He's like, I'm going to look at this. He had the tenacity and the just the go get it enough, right? He just went on in the tomb going, I got to see for myself. It's empty. I know what happened. I know what happened. It says, and then the other disciple went in and saw and believed. So Peter went in before John did. John got there first, but he stood there. He did not go in. But Peter says, I'm going in. I'm going to look. I'm going to see that Jesus is really gone, that he really did raise from the dead. And so it says for until then they hadn't realized that the scriptures said he would rise from the dead. And they went home and they waited for Jesus, right? But there's more. There's another time. And I'm just trying to show you how Peter acted on what he believed, and he just took that initiative to go a step further, right? And here's another time in the next chapter in John 21:7, Jesus comes to them and they're fishing, right? And Jesus is standing on the beach, but they couldn't see who he was. And he said, hey, have you caught any fish? They fished all night. Now, this was their trade. They knew what they were doing, and they hadn't caught any fish. They knew. And Jesus calls out, they don't know it's him. Have you caught any fish? They replied, nope. And he said, well, throw your net on the other side of the boat and you'll have plenty of fish. And they did so. They did it even though they weren't really quite sure, but they threw the fish on the other side. And it says there were so many fish in the net that it began to break. When that happened, John first says, it's God. He says to Peter, it's the Lord, it's Jesus. When Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic because he'd taken off his shirt because they were working. He jumped in the water and swam to the shore. The rest stayed in the boat, waited till they loaded the fish. He just jumped. When he knew it was Jesus, he just jumped. What I love about these stories is Peter in his wishy-washiness sometimes, Peter in his cussing, denying Jesus, all his flaws don't really matter. They don't really show who Peter was. He was a human. He had flaws. Absolutely. We're human. We have flaws, right? But in those moments when he knew it was Jesus, he jumped out of the boat and walked on the water, which nobody but Jesus had ever done, right? He walked on the water to get to Jesus. He ran to the tomb to see what was going on when they said Jesus has risen from the dead. He ran all the way to the tomb and went inside to see it for himself. Here he is in a boat again, and Jesus is, when John says, I think that's Jesus, Peter's like, I don't care about the fish anymore. I don't care about you guys fishing. If that's Jesus, I'm going. And I love that tenacity that action that he took when he knew that it was Jesus, whether Jesus was speaking to the storm or calling to him in the boat or getting up out of that tomb. I love that tenacity that Peter had to chase Jesus down. He was truly a good picture of a God chaser and the one who wanted to be with Jesus, close to Jesus, understand Jesus. I love that he acted on what he believed. He didn't sit there and think about it. He didn't sit in that boat and think, should I jump out of the boat? If it's really you, call me and let me come to you. And Jesus says, come on. And he didn't sit there and go, oh, well, wait a minute. Right? He jumped out of the boat. He ran to the tomb. He jumped out of another boat. He's a boat jumper because Jesus was on the shore, because Jesus was in the storm, because Jesus was no longer in the tomb. Peter acted on what he believed. My question again today is, what do we believe? What do you find yourself acting on? Because we will act on what we believe. If I told you I'm going to meet you at the bank with $1 million, if you believe me, you're going to meet me there. If you don't, you're going to sit at home. Don't go though, because I don't have $1 million. But you're going to act on what you believe. When God says, you've got my peace. We know how to act on that now. It's almost 6 years. In March, it'll be 6 years. Wow, can you believe that? That we've been doing this devotional together. Thank you guys so much for hanging in all this time. And but we act on what we believe when we know God gave us peace, even in the middle of a crisis, sitting at the hospital all day, up all night with your loved ones, or what. No matter what goes on, we start looking. Since we know He gave us His peace, we can start looking and say, okay, how can I have His peace here? Because I don't feel it, right? And then we can go back to the scriptures that we've memorized, and we know there's not a button to push. That would be nice. I'm just saying, right? We know there's not a button to push, but we start looking through what scriptures can I hold on to? What scriptures give me hope in this situation? Because we believe He really gave us peace. We believe we have salvation. We're going to act on that. And I'm just encouraging you this weekend to take some time and just spend some time in the scriptures. Remind yourself of what you believe. Remind yourself of what Jesus and God have done for you. Remind yourself that He made you righteous, that He has given you grace for this moment, that He has given you mercy for this moment, that He gave you everything you need for life and godliness. That means that nothing's going to happen today or ever where God's going to go, well, I'm not sure. Hold on. No, He's already prepared the way. Just like the path was laid under the Red Sea for the children of Israel, and the path was laid under the Jordan River for the children of Israel, before He said, let there be light, He has a path for you, no matter what you're facing today. Good, bad, indifferent. He's got a path for you, and it all leads back to the cross. And I believe we will act on what we believe. So what do you believe? What do you find yourself acting on? Are you acting on fear? Are you acting on faith? It's a good time to just, this is the first of the year, we can do this. Just take some time and reflect and say, what do I really believe? What am I going to act on today? I'm going to go for this. Sometimes it's hard. We can do it anyway. Jump out that boat, right? Jump out that boat. That's all I'm going to say. Have a great weekend, you guys. Peace out. I'll see you again Monday morning.